I suspect many of my UK viewers are a little bit sick of hearing about one particular high-profile European exit, but I can assure you that this isn't a video about customs unions, lorry parks, or an internal border in Kent. Following the suggestion of one kind HITC Sevens subscriber, today I'm going to be taking a look at a number of players who made fairly high-profile departures from Europe, and see how those moves went. It's worth pointing out that it's quite rare for a top-class player to leave European football, for a number of reasons, at the height of their powers, so they're only really high-profile in relation to the rest of their genre. That's also not exactly what this video is about, since I have previously made a video looking at 7 footballers who I think left European football too soon, and I was keen not to have too much overlap between that video and today's. There are many more than 7 examples that I could have chosen from. Lots of you sent me some excellent ones on Twitter, so in the unlikely event that this video does absolutely brilliantly, the option for a part 2 does exist. Here are 7 somewhat high-profile European departures. How did they turn out? David Beckham. In 7th place, we might as well start with a world-famous former number 7 who made the most famous European exit of all, and is arguably the most famous footballer of all time, full stop. David Beckham departed European football as the most recognisable figure within the sport in 2007, when he left Real Madrid to join LA Galaxy. Becks arrived in the MLS not long after his 32nd birthday, and he still had plenty to offer the world of football. When he arrived in Los Angeles, Beckham told the press that he wasn't coming to the MLS to be a superstar, but to be part of a team. Whatever his intentions, Beckham was always a superstar, and his move to the United States no doubt helped broaden brand Beckham's already very extensive horizons. Despite arriving to immense fanfare, Beckham's early years in California did not pass without criticism. Injuries delayed his debut and disrupted his start to life at the club, and when Beckham decided to extend his stay on loan with AC Milan, missing Galaxy games in the process, some fans turned on him. His loyalty was questioned, and just 2 years into a 5-year deal, Beckham's lawyers were in discussions about ending his contract. In the end, Beckham remained in LA, and eventually he would earn the respect of most Galaxy fans through his professionalism and performances on the pitch. Reflecting on Beckham's time in the US 13 years on from his arrival, you would have to describe it as a mixed bag. For Beckham, it certainly raised his celebrity and commercial revenue streams in the US, but it probably cost him a fair few England caps, and his loan moves to Milan suggested that he did have some regrets from a footballing perspective. Crucially, Beckham's move to LA also allowed him to start his own MLS franchise, which entered the league this season. For LA Galaxy and the MLS, the Galaxy won 2 of their 3 MLS Cup finals during Beckham's time at the club. Meanwhile, the MLS certainly raised its international profile, although Beckham alone was never going to make football, or soccer, the most popular sport in the United States. Pep Guardiola. From a former favourite at Real Madrid to a legend at Barcelona, Pep Guardiola was a brilliant footballer who was tailor-made for Johan Cruyff's Barcelona. Guardiola was industrious, creative, and he read the game magnificently, typically from the role of a deep-line playmaker. However, outside of Barcelona, Guardiola's achievements are fairly minor. As a player, of course, not as a manager. Following 17 years at Barcelona, Guardiola announced his intentions to leave the club in 2001, and he subsequently spent 2 pretty underwhelming seasons in Serie A, twice being investigated for doping, and twice being cleared of all charges. Guardiola often flirted with moves to the Premier League, but in 2003, he turned down the chance to sign for Alex Ferguson at Manchester United in favour of a move to Qatar. Pep joined the likes of Gabriel Batistuta and Fernando Hierro in heading to Qatar, penning a 2-year deal with Al Ahly, where he became one of the league's outstanding players. Once his time in Qatar came to an end, Guardiola once again had offers from the Premier League, from clubs including Wigan Athletic and his current employers Manchester City. Guardiola turned them down because he said he wasn't good enough to play in England at the age of 35, and he instead signed for fellow Spaniard Juan Manuel Leo at Mexican club Dorados de Sinaloa, who were recently managed by Diego Maradona. Injuries restricted Pep to just 10 appearances in 6 months in Mexico before he hung up his boots, and his former Dorados boss, Juan Manuel Leo, replaced Mikel Arteta as Guardiola's assistant at Manchester City in June 2020. Andre-Pierre Gignac. I see no reason to leave Mexico behind just yet, and whilst Pep Guardiola may not have made much of an impression following his high-profile transfer to Central America, the opposite is true of Andre-Pierre Gignac. A big, powerful target man with a fantastic work rate and a real-life goal, Gignac began his career with Lorient and later starred for Toulouse and Marseille. The Ligue 1 top scorer in the 2008-09 season, Gignac often had pretty streaky form in France, both at club level and with the national team. What was surprising about Gignac's departure from Marseille to Mexico was that it came following his best season with the club. In the 2014-15 campaign, Gignac came second in the Ligue 1 scoring charts, above both Zlatan Ibrahimovic and Edinson Cavani. Born into a traveller family in the south of France, it was considered little more than a coincidence when Gignac was spotted holidaying in Cancun over the same weekend as the Liga MX draft. Surely a star of one of Europe's top 5 leagues, who wasn't even from a Spanish-speaking country, wasn't going to come to Mexico at the age of only 29. Well, he was. Gignac signed for Tigres the following week, and since then, he has routinely been one of the best players in Mexico. Adored in the city of Monterrey, Gignac has scored 133 goals and made 32 assists in 229 games for the club, including 8 in 8 so far this season. The best paid player in the division, Gignac and his wife recently became naturalized Mexican citizens, and the only accomplishment Gignac has been stripped of in Mexico is the chance to win the Copa Libertadores, with the Liga MX clubs not having competed in the competition since 2016. Matias Kezman. The demise of Matias Kezman is among the most extreme in modern football, and were he English or Brazilian, rather than Serbian, I suspect it would be talked about far more often. An absolutely lethal marksman in his early years, Kezman scored 35 goals in 41 games in his final season with Partizan Belgrade, followed by 105 goals in 122 games for PSV in the Eredivisie. He was one of 2 very exciting centre-forwards that joined Chelsea in the summer of 2004, but whilst the other one, Didier Drogba, became a Blues legend, Kezman's career hit a brick wall in West London. He was sold after a single season, in which he only scored 7 goals, and moves to Atletico Madrid, Fenerbahce and PSG followed. In November 2010, having played just 3 games all season, Kezman terminated his contract with PSG, and there was plenty of speculation about where he would end up next. Few put their money on him heading to Hong Kong and joining Manchester United legend Nicky Butt at South China Athletic Association. Whilst Butt was 35 at the time, Kezman was only 31, although he would play slightly more football for South China than the ex-Newcastle man. Kezman had 2 stints in Hong Kong, either side of an equally brief spell with Bate Borisov before hanging up his boots at the age of 32. Despite only scoring 7 goals in 18 games, Kezman was very popular in Hong Kong, helping the club draw larger crowds, and South China even retired his number 38 shirt when he retired. Franz Beckenbauer. I said I didn't want too much overlap with my 7 players who left European football too soon video, but I had to make a special allowance for Franz Beckenbauer, who departed the European game whilst he was still one of the finest players on earth. Following 18 years and just shy of 600 appearances for Bayern Munich, Beckenbauer became one of a number of high-profile footballers to move to the United States, signing a lucrative contract with New York Cosmos. The Cosmos had the most star-studded squad in the NASL, and Beckenbauer could call the likes of Carlos Alberto Torres, Giorgio Chinaglia, and Pele teammates in the city that never sleeps. His departure signalled the end of Beckenbauer's international career as well, aged only 31, which to me is a shame, since the Kaiser would no doubt have been good enough to give West Germany a real boost at the 1978 World Cup. In fairness to Beckenbauer, he had already won everything that German and international football had to offer, and he went on to spend 5 seasons in New York. He was the league's MVP in his first season, and he scored 10 goals as a sweeper in his second, later returning to Germany for a season with Hamburg before ending his career with one last hurrah in New York. In total, Beckenbauer played 132 games for the New York Cosmos, winning the NASL title in 3 out of his 5 seasons in North America. Alessandro Del Piero. Arguably Juventus' greatest and surely their most adored player of all time, Alessandro Del Piero is a legend of the Italian game. Viewed by many as Roberto Baggio's heir at both Juventus and in the Italian national team, Didier Deschamps called Del Piero a 9.5, and it was as a second striker that he did his finest work. Intelligent, technically gifted, but also incredibly passionate about his club, Del Piero famously stayed with Juventus following their relegation to Serie B, and he played over 700 games for the club in total. His departure was always likely to be an emotional one, and perhaps due to his loyalty to his former club, Del Piero never played for another European team, despite reported interest from Liverpool. The veteran forward signed a 2-year deal with A-League side Sydney FC, becoming the best paid and most high-profile footballer in Australia. Unlike some high-profile rivals, Del Piero lived up to his billing, scoring 24 goals in 48 games and captaining the club in his second season. In 2015, Del Piero made the Sydney FC and overall AFC Team of the Decade a year after leaving the club for his final team. Del Piero ended his playing days in India with Delhi Dynamos, where he scored his only goal in the last of his 10 appearances on the final day of the season against Chennai. Del Piero stated his intentions to go into coaching, but since retirement, he has worked as a pundit with Sky Sports Italia and opened a restaurant called Number 10 in Los Angeles. Sebastian Giovinco. LA Galaxy legend Landon Donovan still stands out head and shoulders above all the rest, but any discussion regarding the greatest MLS players of all time surely must include a mention of Sebastian Giovinco. For 4 seasons, his consistency and magic was off the charts at Toronto FC, transforming the club from bottom half nobodies into MLS Cup winners. Prior to his move to Canada, Giovinco had spent a number of years at Juventus, where his talent was obvious, but he had at times struggled to nail down a regular berth and show his best form. A 16-goal season on loan at Parma was perhaps Giovinco's finest in Serie A, and the 5'3" danger man was a full Italian international when he left European football behind at the age of only 27. Across his 4 seasons in Toronto, Giovinco scored 83 goals in 142 games, inspiring his team to win 1 MLS Cup, 1 Supporters' Shield, and 3 Canadian Championships. Giovinco himself was an MLS All-Star in all 4 seasons, he made the MLS Best 11 in 3 out of those 4 seasons, and he won the MLS MVP award in 2015. That debut 2015 season was pretty special, as the man they call the Atomic Ant was both the division's top scorer and leading assist provider. Much to Toronto FC fans' dismay, Giovinco departed in 2018 after some messy contract talks with the club broke down, and he signed a lucrative contract with Saudi Arabian outfit Al Hilal. Giovinco has since scored 14 goals in 58 games for Al Hilal, where he has already won both the Saudi Professional League title and the AFC Champions League. So that's it for today's video. Thank you all as ever for watching. Give us a like if you enjoyed the video. Feel free to let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. And make sure that you are subscribed to the one and only HITC Sevens. Oh, and you can also follow me on Twitter or Instagram, where the username is just at HITC Sevens on both platforms.